I wanted to write a book to sort of share the stories of what most entrepreneurs that I know, who are people that have, kids, they need to pay their bills. They're not independently wealthy. They're not dropping out of Harvard. They're not trying to launch the next, unicorn technology platform. They want to open food trucks. They want to become PR consultants.
Hey, it's Kellen, and today on Diversified Game, get your pen pad and your Amazon ready. I have Todd Connor of Bunker Labs, also the author of Third Shift Entrepreneur. He is going to give you the game on how you can take those steps from your day job to your business. And he's not going to be radical and say, just jump out, forget your bills. If you were a real entrepreneur, you'd give it all up and make you feel guilty. He has real advice, whether you are a veteran, stay-at-home mom, parent. Hey, I'm a assistant teacher right now during these COVID times. So Todd, welcome to the show. How are you doing?
Kellen, I'm good, man. It's good to see you. I'm jealous of your weather. You're doing it right. You're making good lifestyle decisions for yourself. You're running a business. You're doing it all right, man. It's good to see you.
Well, it's great to have you, and thank you. Thank you. Yeah, I just needed to get out of the Seattle rain, and before that, the Lubbock, whatever that the weather was, and the New England before that, the New England. Well, I actually like New England, so I'll leave that alone. But yeah, tell us, Third Shift Entrepreneur, give us the game on this and tell us about yourself and your business and how you came up with this book.
Yeah. So I started an organization a few years ago called Bunker Labs, and it helps military veterans, which I'm one, to start businesses. And I've started a couple different businesses after I got out of the military. And I always felt like I was an outlier because I didn't understand Silicon Valley and I didn't understand how to raise money from venture capitalists, but I had built businesses, and I was just I thought I was sort of the exception because I was just kind of doing it in scrappy ways. I'd find customers, I'd send out invoices, I'd get paid, and stuff just kind of happened like that for me. And I felt like maybe that was the exception. But then I started talking to other people and find out that a lot of people are starting businesses in the way that I had started businesses. And so we started an organization to help military folks start businesses. And so that was like 7 years ago, and it's grown to chapters across the country. We've got like 40 different chapters across the US. And I started noticing, Kellen, that there were things that a lot of entrepreneurs were doing in common that are not often talked about. And I wanted to write a book to sort of share the stories of what most entrepreneurs that I know, who are people that have, kids, they need to pay their bills. They're not independently wealthy. They're not dropping out of Harvard. They're not trying to launch the next, unicorn technology platform. They want to open food trucks. They want to become PR consultants. They want to open up a CrossFit gym. They want to, do all kinds of stuff that we need, like in our local communities. And really what they want to do is fulfill what, gives them passion. And so I wrote this book to help illuminate for people like, hey, you do not have to quit your job to begin to make progress on starting your business, pursuing your dream. You can do it today with the things that you've got. And I wrote a book basically articulating like these 12 observations, these 12 kind of steps that I've seen people use. And if you're doing these things, that's what I call being a third shift entrepreneur, which is, your first shift is your day job. It's how you create a financial floor for yourself. If you quit your job, you put yourself at financial risk, and then you put all this pressure on the business because you start saying, well, like this business has to make money in 2 months, otherwise I'm done. Well, we want to give ourselves room. We want to give the business the room to breathe. We got to discover what the business is. That takes time. So your first shift is your day job. Keep your day job. Your second shift is like your family, your kids, your life, your political activism, the things you do in your community. And then the third shift is the time that you create for yourself, like the little spaces in your day, the staging ground where you're building what's next. And I've always kind of operated with this idea of like, I've got a first shift, I've got a second shift, and then the third shift is where I build what's next. And this turns out, last thing, is that there's research on this. There's two researchers did a 15-year study of 5,000 entrepreneurs, and they found that those that kept their jobs had a 33% lower failure rate. So people are doing this. They're keeping their jobs. They're doing it on the nights and weekends. They're doing it in very strategic ways. but we don't talk about it enough. So I'm on a national tour to talk about why people can do this. More entrepreneurs need to start businesses. But it's not what you see in Hollywood. It's not what you see, in Mark Zuckerberg. It's what people like you and I are doing. And we just got to tell that story more.
Well, and definitely thank you for your service. I could hear someone saying right now, well, that's easy to say for a lieutenant in the Navy. I mean, he's used to, controlling a lot of stuff and telling people, what to do, but not like you were born as a lieutenant in the Navy. So where do you think that comes from? Like, what built that confidence? What were the things in life that you said, you know what, I can do this?
Here's the thing with entrepreneurship. I think some people think it's like winning the lottery, where like you got to have, or they think it's like skydiving. Like you've got to have enormous courage or confidence, or you've got to get super lucky. But it's not either of those things. It's hard work. And the more you do it, the better you get at it, and that's the thing with entrepreneurship. It's like the more businesses you start, the easier it gets, the better you get. And what's crazy is like right now in this country, the rates of entrepreneurship, who's starting the most businesses in this country right now? It's people over the age of 55. And they've been doing it for decades. And now they're starting their fourth, fifth, sixth business. And it's the younger people who aren't starting businesses, not nearly at the rate that older folks are. And so we've got this which is surprising to people because entrepreneurship has never been like cooler in this country. It's like people are talking about it more. We got TV shows like, The Prophet and The Apprentice and, Shark Tank. So it's really celebrated. It's really cool where, there's a lot of celebrity around like, Snapchat and people that are tech founders, but those stories don't relate to most of us. And so you get good at this stuff by just trying it. And my whole thing is you got to start really small. It's like, it's not big and exciting. It's like, you got to ask yourself, what is it that people are coming to me for? Is it that they like my Cajun cooking? Is it that they ask me for help to like help build their brand? Is it that they ask me for help with daycare? Is it that they're asking me for help to help tutor their kids? Whatever the people are coming at you for, that's the beginning of a business that you can start. And the key is you don't like go spend a ton of money trying to build some business. It's like you just begin to offer that thing. You put a price on that thing, you do it for a second person, a third person, a fourth person, and like you begin to build a little business for yourself. And people got to learn to start small. And we've talked too much about big and scale. It's about starting small. And the more you start, whatever you're starting, like you doing this, this video, this podcast is, vlog, whatever it is that you're starting, you get better at starting things. And so that's what people got to do is like just get comfortable starting, start small. Don't spend a ton of money, just start stuff. See what people want from you and then build from there.
I always tell people, and this is for the sailors out there that are listening, that especially that just came off the ship. It's like dating. The more you do, the better you get at it. And the 18-year-old sailors, you're not very good at it. But when you become older, you get great, hopefully. So no, that's awesome. Now, how many entrepreneurs, have you, because you're a consultant and, do so many things inside of your company and especially with the military, how many people have you helped so far?
We have about 3,600 people that are going through our programs right now. We've got 173 people going through a program that we run with WeWork called the Veterans and Residents Program. It's in 26 cities. We've got about 300 people that are going through this CEO Circle program, which is like a mastermind group, and it's people that get together locally, 10 people, or they do it on, on Zoom. And then we got like several thousand that are online. So, I mean, there's a ton of people that are out there starting stuff. And Kellen, the thing I'll tell you is like their ideas are so interesting and so random, but super specific to who they are. And that's the good stuff. It's the person who's like, I'm going to go build an app, who's never built an app before, that I get nervous about. But someone I was talking to a guy yesterday and he's in Chicago and he's stuck inside because it's freezing or starting to get cold. And he was a consultant and he got tired of it because he was like, look, I'm all I'm doing is like, I'm in my laptop all day. And he's like, I want to be outside. I want to build stuff. I want to like work with my hands, So this is a guy that like has advanced degrees, but is like, I'm not happy doing that stuff. Like just being on spreadsheets all day. I want to go build stuff. So he followed his passion, which for him was like, he took his backyard and he said, I'm going to go build a whole entertainment like studio in my backyard in Chicago. I'm going to hand build a pizza oven. I'm going to grow a little herb garden that's got basil and fresh tomatoes. I'm going to like build a giant movie screen that, and then I can have people over. I'm going to put like a keg in the ground. I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. And then people can come over and like pick the basil, make their own dough, throw the pizza in the oven. It's fresh. It comes out. You sit down, you get a beer, you like sit down, you watch the movie. And he was just like, this is what I want for my backyard. And I was like, dude, that's the point. You do that. And then what happens next? All these people come over from the neighborhood and they're like, I want you to do this for me. He's like, okay, I'll do it for you. And it costs my labor is, you pay all the material costs. My labor is $300 a day. And they're like, okay. So like, that's a business, but it's not like you got to worry about incorporating. You got to like have a website. Like none of that matters. Like you got to like do something that people are like, hey, that's cool. Can you do that for me? Sure. I'll do that for you. And then like, you know what I mean? And then you get your customers and then like a business comes out of that. But people think the way to start a business is to like drive to like a county building and file paperwork. It's like, no, that's not business. I mean, that's a business is customers are like, hey, I like that. Can I pay you to do that for me? And that's the business.
I just want to go to be able to have him be my neighbor. And so I can go to his house and have all those things and not have to worry about the prep, the cleanup and all that. That sounds like a cool hangout.
Yeah, that's even smarter. Just live next to that guy.
Yeah. And many people get intimidated because, I'm always preaching, hey, check this out. What you want me to do? The SBA does it. PTAC does it for free. SCORE does it for free for you. Go to them, then come back to me, save you a couple of dollars. But a lot of times, they'll say, I went to the SBA, SCORE, PTAC. And, they told me to go to the county and I had to go to the chamber. And then they told me the city, I had to register some places here in Florida, the county as well, the state. And they just get so overwhelmed, which it's not a lot. But for someone who has never maybe organized a lot of things, that's why I think women are so great in business, because especially if they have children, they're so used to multitasking. But, for the people out there who are intimidated, what would you say the average, small business, like you described, startup fees are that, they're going to need because they've been bombarded with, you're going to have to pay this and that to get this certificate and that certificate. So what's the average that you're seeing?
Yeah. I mean, it's a few $100. I mean, it's a couple $100, like, I don't know the exact number. It depends on what state you live in, but it's a couple $100. And frankly, and it's not that complicated. You don't have to get good at doing it. Like, I'm not good at doing that. I have a friend who I'm like, hey, you're good at filing this stuff. And but it's like you go online and you fill out some form and you're like, boom, you do it. And frankly, it's like, if it's wrong, then you go back and you fix it. So it's not like you gotta, like, no one's gonna come sue you. No one's gonna come steal your intellectual property because no one really, everyone else is busy. So no one really cares. So that's the good news, actually. So I tell people, like, let that paperwork come later. Like, get the thing you need to start a business is not permission. No one has to give you permission. Give yourself permission. You want to open up a barbershop? Start giving haircuts in your backyard. Like, you want to open up a private school? Like, start tutoring some kids. You want to become a management consultant, help a friend's business or join a nonprofit board and like help them do better as an organization. You want to become a graphic designer, like offer to do someone's brand for free. Like, it's just these micro movements that we got to start. And frankly, like, it's not worth incorporating and spending money on anything legal until you've got people that are like wanting to pay you. That's the point at which you're like, okay, actually, when someone's like, hey, Kellen, I want to pay you, and not just, because frankly, the things I just described, you can start doing that stuff. People can pay you cash. Like, I mean, maybe that's illegal. It's not a big deal. Like, friends can give you $100, like, hey, help me with my website. You don't need to incorporate a business for that. At the point at which, like, there's like $1,000 coming in more, whatever. Okay, now it's like, let's think about having a business. But even then you go like file the paperwork, you open up a business checking account, and then like that's the business. You know, it's just not. It doesn't have to be a lot more complicated than that. Don't ever hire. You don't need lawyers. You don't need accountants. You don't need admins. You just need like someone that wants what you're offering, get them to pay you, and then at some point you got to get the paperwork, you know. But that all the paperwork can come later. Don't let that stop you. I see people that go spend thousands of dollars getting the website, getting the paperwork, opening up the bank accounts, getting the credentials, getting everything except customers. And the customers are the only thing you need to have a business. So forget all the rest of it. Just get some customers, and then, you know, you figure it out from there.
Definitely. Now, you know, you've written the book, you have Bunker Labs. I've also noticed, you know, you've been part of the Collective Academy as a co-founder. When people, you know, start looking you up and saying, okay, you know, a lot of times it's like, hey, Todd is my dad. He's going to help me with my business and get me right. And, you know, he has a nonprofit and he has a for-profit. Like when they go to Bunker Labs, what can they expect versus if they go to the Collective Academy? What's the difference in the services?
Yeah, well, Bunker Labs is a nonprofit for the military community if you want to start businesses. And so it's free for all of the military veterans. And we've got an online platform where you can go through like a program called Launch Lab Online. You can find out basically like, is starting a business right for me and how do I do it? It's like the introduction, like you don't need to know anything. We just kind of introduce you to entrepreneurship. So that's all free. I mean, when there's not COVID, we have tons of events, but with COVID, we're not doing any events. So if you're a veteran or a military spouse, or if you're on active duty, you can go to Bunker Labs for free. Collective Academy is a consulting business that I run, and that's not free. And we work with organizations to help design leadership programs and you know, and help design kind of cohort-driven leadership programs. We do a lot of stuff there, and there's a woman that runs that now. So I stepped down. I was the founder, but then she runs it. She's doing an amazing job. And then, you know, we own, like my husband and I own a bed and breakfast that we run on the side as well. And then I have a couple other projects, you know, the book and some other stuff. I think what you find out is that the more you start stuff, the easier it is to just start more stuff. And like, I think most entrepreneurs that have been doing it for a while, this isn't how you start. And it's not even, it frankly wasn't even the goal, but you end up like with a portfolio. Like I'm sure you're doing like 5 things right now. You know, it's like you end up with a portfolio. And part of how I think about it is like, you have things on the back burner, right? Like 4 or 5 things. And then like one of them gets hot, you bring it forward. And you're like, okay, this is what's cooking right now. Let's focus on it. And then like this thing on the back burner over here, like no one really cared about, like just take it off, it's done. Let's put something new on, you know? And so it's this process of like putting out these little experiments, you know, like I've started podcasts, I've ended podcasts. I was like, people don't like my podcast. That's okay. Like, maybe it was the wrong conversation. Maybe my format was bad. Maybe it was too long. Maybe it was too short. Maybe I didn't promote it right. Maybe it was, you know, okay, cool. But like, don't get emotionally attached to it. Like come back to the lab. Let's play with the format. Do I even like doing it? Maybe not. And then like, let's try it again. You know, so like this is the discovery process. And I think when you do this long enough, then you end up with like multiple things that you're kind of, you know, kind of playing with and seeing what, you know, the people want. Ultimately, the question for us is, what is it that people need from us? You know, what is it that, and our job as entrepreneurs is to sort of audition in public, you know, like you going out there, Kellen, with, you know, PR services and with, you know, this show and with other things you're doing. And then people are like, hey, Kellen, I need you to help me with this. And that's where you kind of like follow that inquiry. When people are coming to you being like, I need this from you. That's where we begin to sort of get traction.
No, that's definitely. I totally agree with you. It's so true. And especially, you know, you mentioned your spouse and that when you have that support too, or if you don't have that support, because my wife always pushes back. And I love that about her because I don't need any, you know, yes people around me saying, hey, you're just got the greatest ideas all the time. Even though I'm a June 14th. Trump is my Irish twin and down the street neighbor. I do have a big brain and I'm a stable genius, but I don't always have the best ideas. You know, I have a team of people who actually give me a lot of ideas. So I definitely agree with you that you know, talk about your bed and breakfast. How did that come about? How did you two say, I want to, you know, open up a bed and breakfast? And where is that bed and breakfast?
Yeah, well, it's in Northwest Indiana, which is kind of where we are right now. We got, you know, a little place out here. And again, just to like go back, like this stuff doesn't happen overnight, so like I'm very sensitive to the person who's like, look, I'm single, I drive Lyft, I don't have money, and what I would say to that person is like, you have time. So how do you take the extra time you have, and how do you create time, and how do you make hard choices, which by the way, like I did earlier in my life, now it gets easier, but early in life, it's like, don't go to the bars, stay up late, like write the thing, like instead of going to lunch, like bring a lunch, like, like buy Wonder Bread and, some cold cuts, and like, boom, that's lunch for a week. Like I've done that, like, so this is, and then you like take that time and you're like, I'm going to like build like PowerPoints, and then like, I'm not good at PowerPoints, I'm going to learn how to build PowerPoints, so like, that's the scrappy stuff, but that's the work you do when you're starting to earn the right to like, then it all gets easier, so anyway, the bed and breakfast was like, we've been out here for a while and we think it's a really cool area. It's an hour from Chicago. We don't think anyone really like knows about this area. And I was like, I don't get why all these people in Chicago go to Soho House and go to like WeWork and these cool places. And especially people that have like disposable income, because they go out to dinner and they spend like $300 or whatever. I don't get why those people don't come out here and like have a weekend in the country, because it's kind of like in the middle of nowhere and it's really quiet and it's relaxing and there's no, it's like digital detox. And so that was a big idea. And I was like, we could build a Mar-a-Lago, not really, but something that is like a place for people to come an hour away. And so that was like a big idea. This property came up. It was pretty cheap relative to a lot of things. It's an 8-bedroom bed and breakfast. And I was like, okay, this is cool. This is interesting. Like my vision is like, I want to have leadership retreats and I want to bring small groups together. I want to bring entrepreneurs together. I want them to have 3 or 4 day experiences that are really transformative, like put a price on it, but like really small group, profound, deep experiences. We're in nature. We'll go for walks in the country, do all this stuff. We'll vision, whiteboard, all that, right? Like that's the space in my mind. But I also was like, okay, if that doesn't happen day one, which is not going to, what's plan B? Well, plan B is like rent it on Airbnb. Okay. And it like, that turns out to be profitable, but I ran the numbers in advance. It was like, so it's for the last 2 years, it's been a wedding venue because people wanted weddings. I didn't want to own a wedding venue, Kellen. This is what I'm going to tell you. I did not want to own a wedding venue. I don't think it's fun dealing with brides. I love brides. I don't want to.
I don't. So I'm glad somebody does. I don't like weddings. They're too long. Let's do them like, certain Asian countries. Get them over with in an hour.
So I was like, but here's what it is. I was like, okay, Airbnb is plan B. That works. And then I looked at, and I asked people, I was like, what do y'all think we should use this space for? And people were like, I would love to have my wedding there. And I was like, okay. So here's the thing. Like, I don't want to get in the way of the business. So the market is like, we want weddings. I'm like, cool, we'll do weddings. So this past summer, we had a ton of weddings, and they were all boutique weddings. They were outdoor weddings because it's a big backyard. And that's what people wanted for COVID. So like, we made money, but not doing the vision that I have. The vision I have is like these retreats and, but that'll be next year when COVID's done. And, so we'll get there. But I think it's everything I've ever tried to do. I always think about how do you create a downside scenario that doesn't cost you anything, so I've never done anything where it's like, I'm going to put a bunch of money in, and if it goes well, it's going to be huge. And if it goes poorly, I lose a ton of money. The downside scenario for me is always like, I don't lose a lot of money. I just don't realize what the vision was, And so if it's your time, then that's what that is. Most things I do that don't work, and there's tons of things I do that don't work, I've given up my time. Sometimes a little bit of personal reputation. Like I'm on LinkedIn being like, hey, I'm doing this thing, sign up. Da-da. And people are like, no. I'm like, okay, didn't happen, And that's like your reputation, your ego, you got to let that go. And then maybe your time. And then things like buying real estate, it's like, I always know that like, okay, this is how this thing can get rented. And then that's, so maybe it's not the dream, but it's like, it's going to pay for itself. So that's fine, and everything that I've tried to do, I kind of try to operate with that place of thinking. But it's like, this is the thing I want to say to the entrepreneurs, aspiring entrepreneurs. You should be cautious. You should not take big risks. You should have plan Bs and plan Cs. And you should not spend money on things that you don't know exactly how you're going to get that money back, And I think the smart entrepreneurs, the good entrepreneurs, they're really cautious. And we don't talk about that enough. They're strategically cautious. They have plan Bs in place. They know, like, I'm going to keep this thing going. I'm going to try this thing, but I'm not going to let go of this thing until this thing starts working, And that's a good place to build from. That's how Nike got built. That's how Spanx got built. That's how Fubu got built. That's how, a lot of companies, smart entrepreneurs build it that way.
Yeah, and I definitely hear, a podcast in you, so I say, bring the podcast back.
Okay.
You get paid through, platforms like anchor.fm. It might not make you rich, but when you're already there, it doesn't matter, right? But I think everyone has a book, a business, and a podcast, because your story, it's not like Joe Rogan got $100 million because he started yesterday. He really put in the time, and that's what it's about.
Yeah. And here's totally. And the other thing is doing it in ways that are really unique to who you are. We are all going to fail if we try to go become Joe Rogan. Like, I always call him Josh Brogan, but he's like the singer. But like, we are all going to fail if we try to be Joe Rogan. But we will not fail. You will not fail if you are Kellen Coleman. I will not fail if I am Todd Connor. Every time Todd Connor tries to be Kellen Coleman, I fail. Every time Todd Connor tries to be Todd Connor, like, I do okay. And so what's interesting is we want to have role models as entrepreneurs, and that's good. We should have role models as entrepreneurs. But don't try we can learn from them, but we cannot imitate them. And so the more your personality shines through what you're doing, I think the closer you are to sort of having something that is distinctive. The reason Joe Rogan gets $100 million, whatever he gets, is because he's a monopoly. And monopolies charge more money. You get to be a monopoly if you do it in a way that no one else can do it. And the only way that you can do it in a way that no one else can do it is by doing it in a way that's exactly you, because no one can be that. And so I don't think that's like yes, it's a feel-good message, like, be yourself, be authentic, be true to who you are. But it's also a strategic kind of strategy to, like, be the person that you are. And then that it's in that quirky kind of thinking and alchemy, we're talking about Mar-a-Lago. It's like, if there's anything you want to understand about the last, the outgoing president, and he is outgoing, is like, he did it in a way that was purely stylistically himself. And people in the Republican Party in particular who tried to imitate that, like, didn't work. And so it's like, the message isn't go out and be outrageous in the way he is outrageous, because I think he's outrageous. But it's like, be your own version of who you are. And that will resonate, And so that's easy to miss, though, because we, like, celebritize, the sharks, we celebritize, whatever, all of these celebrities, Joe Rogan, right? Others. The key is do it in a way that's really distinctly yours. And I've spent the last few years trying to, like, really figure that out for myself. I'm like, what is the style that is me? And I've figured out some things. I'm like, it's relatable. I try to be self-deprecating. Anytime I try to stand up and be like, I'm smart and let me give you the answer, like, it doesn't work. But anytime I'm in conversation, when it's small groups in particular, I'm better at, like, asking questions of other people than I am about, like, just like, let me stand up and teach to you, So I'm learning these things about myself. But anytime I package whatever I'm offering around what I'm really built to do, it's fine. Whenever I try to, like, think, well, this is what the market wants, and so let me try to, like, slip into it in a way that I think the market wants, like, I kind of get it wrong, and that's especially true for professional services. Technology is maybe a little bit different, but anytime you are associated with your brand, which I am for leadership consulting and building a nonprofit, then, like, you really got to figure out who are you and be true to that message.
In the words of Frank Sinatra, and I call myself the Black Frank Sinatra, the young Al Heyman, you're doing it your way. Yeah. You're doing it your way. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's like, it can feel vulnerable to do it your way, because you're like, is this, but look at artists. Artists have this figured out, and entrepreneurs can learn a lot from artists, like, by watching, Cardi B, and by watching Frank Sinatra, and by watching, and they do it their way, and the good ones do it their way. And stylistically, artists have to like come to a point of view, like, this is what matters to me. Like, I just saw a special on Lizzo, like, this is what matters to me. This is how I want to be. And then like, it's the courage to be like, do you like it as well? And maybe the answer is no. But maybe the answer is yes, but our job is to create the version, and then like the market kind of lets us know. But we always do better when we create the version that we know we are built to create, And so for me, it's really around how I facilitate leadership experiences, and it's stylistically, it doesn't look anything like Tony Robbins. It doesn't look anything like, Joe Rogan. It doesn't, it's like, I believe in, being like polite and use profanity. And like, I mean, there's things that I believe in, like, trying to be, humble. I try to be use humor, like there's things, but I'm also like, I kind of acknowledge what I don't know, which is a lot, so I think we can just be ourselves. And I think when we do that, artists do that and they have success with it. Artists that try to imitate other artists sort of, I think, get it wrong. We can learn, we can be inspired by other artists, we can learn from other artists, but we got to sort of figure out like, what's our voice in this. And I think entrepreneurs need to do that, and they can learn by watching how artists do that. Artists have to do this every single day. Performers, people in theater, they have to get up and sort of like be, live in that art form. And I think entrepreneurs in some ways have to do the same.
And you guys, I want you to know, he's a consultant who said he doesn't know it all, which, nowadays in America, if you don't know it all, and if you're not the best, and if you're not number one, I really hate that stuff because of my team. Again, there's so many things that I learn daily and opportunities, and I don't have all the answers, but I can try to go find someone who is specialized in that. So I really appreciate that. And, you mentioned outliers, and I know you've read Malcolm Gladwell and probably the Seth Godwins, and and it's like, hey, I got these funky glasses on. I'm going to, write over 200 books, and I'm going to tell you how to find your tribe and just kind of how to be you before everyone else, when we're talking about Seth. So I love that. So do you think that, writing books, so you're working on part 2, not to promote it, but I just like, have you kind of found like, I like writing books, or maybe it's even putting those books into a documentary or movie form? Like, where does it go? Where does the creativity go?
Here's what I learned, Kellen. I don't like writing books. I like writing, and I actually think I'm a good writer. And I write a lot. I write a weekly leadership column for Crane Chicago Business. I write a lot. But a book, I wrote this book as a fiction. So Third Shift Entrepreneur starts with a guy who's having a midlife crisis. It's a fiction. It's written as a story, because I felt like stories are how we can best learn entrepreneurship. And when I first wrote the book, and the publisher was like, this is great, and they're like, we're putting it to print, we're getting it out there. At the 11th hour, I like reread the book, because I was just going fast, it was like going too fast. And I was like, hold up, this book it's not ready yet. It's not right. There's things that are wrong in this book. I'm not proud of this book. And they were like, well, it's already in warehouses. And I was like, pull it back. Pull it back. And so they pulled it back, and they had never done that. And I was like, I want you to do it. And because I was like, I'm not, a book is like, your name's on it. It's out there. It lives for a long time. It's not like some bad Facebook post. You just delete it, you move on, whatever. Or like people just, it gets lost in the noise. Books get lost in the noise too. But I was like, I want to make it better. And so I spent the last 3 months going back to the book. And I doubled the length of it. I added a lot of things that I thought were missing. I reframed some things that I thought were wrong, developed the characters more, thought about it harder. And now it's coming back out. But I think to write a book, part of what I've learned is, and by the way, the new book, I'm super pumped about. I think people are going to read it and be like, like there's going to be like several aha moments that you're either going to love this book and be like, oh my gosh, because it speaks to you, or you're going to look at this book and be like, I don't get it. Like it'll be one of two reactions. You'll be like, this becomes my new Sherpa. Like this is the thing that's guiding me, or it's like, if you are happy and employed and not trying to start a business, you do not need this book. If you are thinking of starting a business and you've got this like, and you feel stuck, particularly if you feel like because you don't have the money to move forward, this book will speak to you. Like I know that, I promise that. I'll give you money back if it doesn't. And so, but writing a book is like, you got to go back, you got to go backwards. And I'm like, I like to go forward, and I like to be in person with people. I'm not, it's harder for me to spend time like in text. I can do it, but I learned like, oh, this is a lot harder. This is not natural. Like, this isn't like pumping out a podcast. This is like deep work, hours a day, got to go back if you're going to do it right, but look, I had to write it to learn that, and that's okay. And I still might write another one, but now I'm heads up coming in. Like, I know, what's easy about this, what's hard. Part of the process. Well, you just learn.
I mean, you learn, but you've said some things that are interesting because you like writing, but the book process, it's long and, kind of, tedious. I write books as well. And my audience knows we have a small publishing company because I like to write books and I don't want to be known as a self-published author. And my kids, some of them write books, but I'm seeing Third Shift Entrepreneur like its own show, because it can always grow. And I don't know if it's a mix between what I can't even think. I want to say a name, but I don't want to say the name, but could like maybe even script writing. I mean, you're right there in Chicago, shows get filmed all the time. Could you ever see yourself saying, look, I'm going to write a script and we're going to try to pitch this for TV? Because I mean, you can tell so many stories inside of that creativity based on that one idea.
Totally. I think, and there's a book I'm reading now called Range, which I would recommend as well. And here's what I tell a lot of entrepreneurs. You don't have to compete on content. You can compete on format. So like I tell people like Blair Witch Project, most people, when they think about making a movie, are like, okay, how do I make a 2-hour film that is better than like other 2-hour films? But it lives within the same constraints, you know what I mean? Which is like, it's 2 hours, you have like sound editing, like you have like professional cameras, I think more interesting entrepreneurs come outside of the domain and they don't even respect the boundaries that the domain has built, So like Blair Witch Project is like, amazing because it's filmed on like $200 worth of like iPhones and camera equipment, right? Like the music video Happy, 24 hours, and so it's like that's interesting, and so I think it's about blowing up the boundaries a little bit. So if you ask me like, let's talk about making a movie, I would make a movie and I would probably make it, the form of it would be different. It would be like 5 days long. It would be like shot on iPhones. It would be about entrepreneurs that are building things, but it wouldn't have any of the bravado that like Extreme Restaurant Makeover has, or like The Prophet has. It would be like heart-centered, slow, showing businesses like that. So I'm very interested. Look, I'm committed to more people. I want more people to start businesses, especially people who don't see themselves in the typical stories. Black and brown entrepreneurs, military veterans, women, young people, old people. I mean, most people, a lot of rural community, entrepreneurs, like people don't see, unless you're a Harvard dropout, like you don't see yourself in most of these stories. And so, if you don't understand Silicon Valley, which most of us don't, and I've been doing this for years and I still don't. So like, it's fine, and I have an MBA from a good school, it's like, doesn't matter. So I want people to start businesses, and I think storytelling is how you do that. So yeah, I'm very interested in storytelling. Maybe you and I should partner. Maybe you can build something. I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know if I'm the right one to tell the story.
Yeah, I mean, definitely, it's just putting it out. You say the iPhone and that, new iPhone 12 can definitely take some great pictures. So definitely, I would advise like checking out, and I'll send you the link, the NATPE, not the virtual conference. Sorry, NATPE. But when things open up, it's a conference I love, and you'll meet everybody, but just starting to put some things together because, I was looking at one of the Amazon reviews on the book and someone was like, oh, fiction, telling the story in fiction doesn't work. And I'm thinking, hey, watch, if it went to TV, I bet you'd eat your words. I love when folks want to give a negative comment on anything that they could have just turned the page, right? Everyone's opinion now is supposed to be important, but if it's negative, there's a time and a place for everything, but why? Why did you put that? It's like you make a video or a blog and someone says, I disagree with you. That's fine, But do I really care? I'm just expressing myself like it's my diary and I was 7 years old, just trying to express myself. So, I definitely, for that, even one comment is why that came to mind. And I'm like, who the heck are you to say what doesn't work when he has, over 3,000 people he's helped? And I don't know. It irks me when folks are just negative, but it also drives me to say, yeah, I'd be down. I mean, you put something together, talk to my TV folks. A lot of them would say, hey, reality TV. Like, no, we were thinking sitcom, but you want to go low hanging fruit. What's the check look like? Right.
Yeah.
Now, with all the success you've had, and you've had a lot, and you're still, a young guy, you're seasoned, you got, all this time to make these things happen. What is like a community give back that you are doing or that you want to do in the future with the success you're having?
Well, I mean, a lot of it is around, is what we're doing through Bunker Labs and helping the military community start businesses. But my other passion is like, go back to this retreat property. I really want to bring folks out. Like I put out some calls the other week, and I was like, look, I want to bring activists in the city of Chicago who are, fighting for better wages. They're fighting for, communities. They're fighting for ending police violence on, so these are young activists. I'm like, look, I'm not in that, 22-year-olds that are like staging, kind of street protest, peaceful protests, right? But they're out there doing things. And I'm like, look, I can't necessarily, I want these kids to find their voice and I want them to keep going, but I don't need to like insert myself in that. But what if I can host them? I was like, how about I bring you guys out for 4 days so you have some space to think and collaborate and like put your plan together. And, so things like that are very interesting to me. Like, how do I play a supporting role for other communities and for their voices so that they can kind of, find their lane for the work that they want to do. And I think this retreat center is a place to do that. That I come back to my, primary identity for me is like, I like to facilitate, I want to help other people kind of find their voice and they get elevated and they get eyeballs. And that's part of the role I want to play in the world. And so, yeah, I think, and beyond other things like donate, money and resources and volunteer and, but I really am interested in like, how can I help bring a little bit of organization to, and a little bit of structure and a little bit of kind of momentum to particularly young people that are out there like doing important things, because it's hard out there, and it's especially hard when you're young, it's like, you got to provide for yourself. You got to be scrappy, but you also like want to be an advocate and fight for social justice and things that matter to you. So I got to find a way to help that community more, those folks.
That would be a real cool event. I'm even thinking about the entrepreneur you mentioned with the outside, minus the keg, because 22, I mean, they see free keg. Hey, open bar.
Yeah, anybody will show up for that.
Yeah, minus the keg. But no, that is great information. If the folks want to reach out to you, what is the best way to contact you?
Yeah, you can go to thirdshiftentrepreneur.com. And we got a lot of content there. I interview third shift entrepreneurs. We talk about what they're doing. We talk about what works. So you can go there. The book's available. It actually comes out. There was like a little pre-thing, but it's coming out January. So folks can go to Amazon, Barnes & Noble, anywhere books are sold, Books A Million, and find Third Shift Entrepreneur. And then Bunker Labs too, bunkerlabs.org. So any of those places, you can get connected. I want to say to your audience, Kellen, that, it's hard, but you can do it. And what you've got to give up does not have to be your resources as much as it needs to be your time. And what you need to do is to follow a framework. And the book is a framework. And there are other frameworks, but the book is a framework for how you get started. Like what are I try to make it really relatable and human. There's 12, kind of observations, 12 things you got to do, steps if you want to kind of get started. And I encourage folks to kind of go back to that because we can't jam our way into this stuff. The market's got to tell us, hey, Kellen, we need more of you over here. Our job is to sort of show up, have them. And sometimes the market's be like, look, I think it sucks. Okay, cool. Like, let me go back and figure out something else. Right. But that's our job. That the entrepreneurs show up to the art gallery. We present our art. as it were, whatever our art form is. And then we see what people are wanting, and then we keep building more towards that. So it's this kind of dance that we do, but I want more people to get out there and to start in ways that are like the right way of starting. It's not about like, cash, it's not about more Instagram followers. It's not about more money. It's about like the thing that you're doing that people need. And when you figure that out, then like there's money that follows. And that's true if you're starting a nonprofit, true if you're starting a for-profit. But I want more people starting. The world needs your creative talents, your unique ideas, your gifts. So I hope folks come forward and bring those things.
Oh, I love that. And, I love that even when you present your stuff, it's not when you talk about, following the trends, everybody has been seen on CBS, Fox, and all these things. And those are things you can get on Fiverr, someone on Fiverr to get you. And I'm a serial entrepreneur. Todd isn't. He's a hard worker is what he is. And, everyone's using the serial entrepreneur. I'm an investor. And it's just a bunch of jazz. I just don't get it, because it's like business is like dating. And if you just come out and say, hey, I'm the best person that you'll ever meet in the life. I mean, I remember the single days, boom, I'm out of here. Because if I told you that, I'd be lying to you. I'm not the best anything. Actually, I'm going to be a problem. So I thank you, Todd, for coming on. I want you guys to reach out, get his book, check out the different links. I'm going to have both links in there. And if you have, ideas, reach out. You can tell Todd has a heart for giving. I'm going to take this conversation off air because I want to ask him about his audiobook plans and when we can put the link for that. Because I know a lot of you are going to say, I don't read, I need the audiobook. So I'm going to get more info off air on that. And then I will let you guys know. Be blessed, you guys. Thank you, Todd.